Welcome ladies and gentlemen, it is finally time to take a look at the weekly update news for World of Tanks console Modern Armour, and we're going to have a look through everything that we know since the unveiling yesterday of some of the brand new content coming into the game. I think we're going to take today's video, obviously we'll have some gameplay in the background for you, as well as highlighting some of the key aspects of the update news that will pop up on screen. Obviously I'll timestamp it so you can jump around the video to have a look at some of the bits that you're most interested in. Hopefully that's suffice to what you want to find out. Anyway, first things first, what happened last week? Well, of course, we got the Sturmtiger update with nearly 700,000 battles being played over the last week. Over 40,000 tanks are owned, over 1,000 players own the Sturmtiger. Win rates are pretty awful, not that surprised, especially the tier 9, which is pretty awful apparently from what I've seen in the comment section on the previous videos. Obviously let me know how you're feeling about the Sturmtiger tanks that came into World of Tanks and whether or not they're actually worth playing or not. Anyway, moving forward, Tanks Reforged E50M line also got a buff. They've basically seen a minor improvements to the win rate, nothing major. I don't think that they're particularly overpowered within the game, but yeah, certainly a tank line that's kind of needed some buffs for a while. Moving forward into this week, well, we had the Kinetic Fury season, we also had things like the Monster 3D Commanders, we had the Halloween Garage, blah 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 blah. Obviously we still have the Monster Hunter operation where you can get a free Monster Hunter tank, so if you've been grinding towards any of that, then yes, you will be able to still get that Monster Hunter tank. Obviously make sure that you pick the one tank that you want. Don't go getting one specific Monster Hunter tank thinking that you can get another one later on down the line. You have to be able to just pick one out of all of them available, so don't just pick the first one that becomes available because you won't be getting another chance to get some of the tier 8s. Anyway, moving forward, obviously still got the commander skill respec discount, so if you want to respec your commander, do it right now. All monster tanks earned or purchased at any time receive a 2x commander XP through till November 1st, and we have the +1/-1 event currently in the game. I love the +1/-1, it's really handy when that comes into the game to grind through some of those awful tanks that there are within the game. Obviously when you're down at tier 6 and you're coming up against tier 8s and tanks that are pretty useless, then yeah, it becomes a real problem. And so +1/-1 is definitely a benefit to the game, especially for trying to keep hold of players that maybe don't have as much experience. I think that that's always a benefit, because when they're coming bottom tier in a tank that isn't particularly great because they don't know what tanks are good in the game, and then they're coming up against some of the most overpowered tier 8 tanks in the game, it is very unfair. Even when you're a very experienced player coming up against maybe a less experienced player 2 tiers higher, you are still at a significant disadvantage. Anyway, moving forward, next week, this is probably the biggest thing for all of you guys watching that want to find out what's coming, and that is that the Halloween mode on October 26th will run for just over 5 days. I think it might even be a week, and essentially you'll be able to play the Monster Hunter game mode, where each single Monster Hunter tank has its specific own attribute that you can use within the game. So things like the brand new creature has a stun effect or a electric lightning effect. Things like the kaiju and stuff like that also have specific changes. The Revenant Craft Panther has the ability to go invisible, stuff like that. It's all kind of within the game. Obviously let me know whether or not you've played the Halloween mode from previous years and whether you're going to be excited to see that within the game. Now, not only that, we will be getting a new Western Alliance post-war heavy tank, and that is the Centennial Chieftain T95-59. So, if you've ever seen the Centennial Chieftain, one of the old ones, or old premium tanks within World War II game mode, tier 8, then yeah, this one will basically be coming back, but slightly altered for World War II, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays. I think it is somewhat like the Valor, essentially. That's what it's going to be like. And along with this, You'll also be able to earn a free tank as well. So you'll be able to get the Zizka Skoda T40 Earn Challenge. So it's a tier 6, it's probably nothing that important. It's not going to be anything particularly amazing. But yeah, you will be able to get a free Zizka Skoda T40, which is always nice. And that'll be on independent Czechoslovak State Day. So that'll be interesting. And then we've got the tanks reforged line, and that's why the Chieftain gameplay in the background of this video is so prominent. Not only has some of the more underpowered tanks within the game been getting buffs, well, now some of the more overpowered tanks are getting buffs. So I'm not saying that the Chieftain is completely overpowered. It's probably one of the average tanks, I'd say, right now. It used to be a lot better in the Matchmaker, but considering all of the recent buffs and all of the update 6.0 madness that happened not that long ago on World of Tanks, then yeah, it kind of left the Chieftain a little bit far behind, and definitely their mobility and the turret armor let it down a little bit. I'm not saying the turret is awful, it is pretty bloody good, if I'm going to be honest. But yeah, with the improved mobility and the turret armor that is coming on Tuesday next week, then this will make the line so much nicer to play, and I'm sure that it will be a lot more competitive with some of the other tanks in the British heavy tank tech tree. Obviously, it's going to still probably be number 2 to the Super Conqueror, and of course, if we're taking into account the premium tier 10, then yeah, it's probably 3rd out of all of them, because the Valor is just that good, along with the Super Conqueror. Anyway, moving down the line, of course, all of the tech tree tanks that were in this grind are also getting improvements as well. So don't fear too much at tier 9 with the Conqueror only getting improvements to the stock gun. You won't be seeing any other improvements to that tank, because trust me, the Conqueror at tier 9 has no need for any more buffs. It is a fantastic tier 9 tank, and if you haven't gone down the British heavy tank line, I must implore you. I'm not saying that the British heavy tanks below tier 9 are fantastic, but as soon as you get to tier 9 and 10, they are amazing to play, and I can't really show you enough. I think it's just one of those things that you have to jump in and try and get there eventually. Yes, you do have to play with the Black Prince. Yes, you do have to play the Carnarvon stock, but even those tanks have got buffs recently, and further buffed with this new update coming on Tuesday, so that the increased speed and hull armor of the Black Prince may actually make it a little bit more competitive within the game. The Carnarvon is also getting guns with improved reload and accuracy, so you'll be able to do more DPM with the tank, and the turret actually becomes a lot stronger when you get it fully upgraded, so that is actually not a bad tank. It used to be awful when I played through it. It was terrible. They didn't have the turret armor buffs that they previously had, and a lot of the mobility and the guns that they got. I think they got an increase in alpha, I can't remember entirely, but a long time ago they were absolutely awful. Now they're just kind of awful, but they're going to be made actually pretty decent with these most recent updates. As with the Black Prince, the Churchill 6 and the Churchill 1 will be getting improvements to speed, armor and upgrade progression, so you will probably be able to get better upgrades throughout the progression, rather than just having some of the worst upgrades first, and then eventually you'll get like the gun that actually makes the tank playable. Hopefully they'll have swapped it around, so you get like the decent package to begin with, and then you get like some of the lesser ones as you go further on instead. As far as some of the premium tanks that I know many of you will have in the garage if you've been playing World of Tanks for a while, and some of these were actually released as part of a earn operation. I know that definitely the Carnarvon Action X and the Paladin Carnarvon Action X were given some buffs within this next update coming. You've also got them being released as part of a earn operation a while back, where you could get the Paladin, I think it was. You've also got the British Bulldog, which was given away for free. All of them are basically getting buffs, and the A43 Black Prince and the British Bulldog will get speed increases. The FE201 A45 and the FE201 A45 Black Edition are getting penetration increases, which is nice. And the Carnarvon Action X and Paladin will, of course, get that small reload improvement to have even better DPM than they already do. So it's going to make them a little bit more competitive in the matchup when you're playing against some of the opponents at tier 8. As far as the other things going around with the game, and I'm sure many of you who play on any of the more improved consoles. So we obviously have the Xbox Series X and we've got the Xbox Series S, we've got the PS5. Basically, what Wargaming have done is now actually released a native version to the PS5. So not only will you be able to play on better graphics and with improved performance, they've actually released a version of the game that is specific to the PS5, so you will actually be able to still play with everyone that you currently play with. It's just that the game will probably look a lot better and it will probably perform way better, so I guess it's a little bit of an advantage if you have a PS5. Obviously, for those of you who haven't actually been able to get your hands on a PS5, it's not so fantastic, and so I guess maybe after Christmas you'll be able to pick yourself up one if you're that heavily invested into consoles. But yeah, maybe just wait a little bit until they come into stock, I don't know, but that's my just opinion. Anyway, moving forward, the fixes for Tuesday. So you know, we talked about the fixed camo bug last week, whereby the camouflage didn't actually work properly for the Cold War light tanks. Yeah, they've basically adjusted the bonus of the advanced concealment equipment, so things like advanced concealment, advanced vision range and stuff like that. All of that has basically been put more in line with what it should be for the tanks at the Cold War lights, and that is basically to make them less undetectable, because they were just ridiculous, especially the Armadillo, where it could literally be 60 meters in front of you. You'd pretty much have to ram straight into it to spot it, and that was just ridiculous. But hopefully they've actually improved that. They've also improved the base concealment factors for many Cold War light tanks. So I don't know whether by improving them they mean that they've decreased them, or whether they mean that they've actually increased them. It's a little bit unknown. I guess by saying that they've improved the base concealment factors for many Cold War light tanks means that they've probably got better, which is probably not something that Wargaming probably want that much, because yeah, that's the kind of problem with the Cold War light tanks at the minute, is them just not being able to get spotted for any kind of hope. If you're playing in a heavy tank, you just won't outspot a Cold War light tank, especially if it's got any of the equipment slot that boosts them up, like we've talked about here. Now, for those of you who are interested in playing Cold War, not only have the light tanks been nerfed or going to be getting adjusted so that they actually work a little bit better for the Cold War lights, other than the Armadillo, which is of course the next talking point about this video, the Armadillo and the premium tank situation. Do you think that it is fair that the balance changes for the Armadillo are coming into the game, whereby they are significantly reducing its concealment, its accuracy while moving, and the damage output of the tank? Bearing in mind you would have had to pay at least somewhere in the region of £30 to be able to get the tank in the first place. Do you think it's fair that Wargaming then go and change the tank from what you originally thought it was going to be? Do you think that it's a good change for the game? Because of course it is an overpowered tank, or at least a tank that isn't fair within the current game meta on Cold War, and it's negatively impacting what they're doing. Do you think you should be getting a refund? Obviously let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think that it is entirely fair that the Armadillo is being nerfed that significantly? Or do you think what Wargaming should have done is just buffed all of the other tanks within Cold War to be able to basically say that they haven't changed the Armadillo at all, except all of the other tanks in the game have got better, so it means that, yeah, the Armadillo hasn't been nerfed, but it has effectively because all of the other tanks got better. What do you think? Do you think it's a good thing for the game? I personally, as my own opinion, think that this is something Wargaming should really be doing a lot more with the game. Set the precedent that you can nerf overpowered premium tanks, because let's be honest, it's probably negatively impacting their sales figures if they produce a tank that, yes, some people will buy because they're invested in the game and they know it's overpowered, but then what happens about the people that may not want to pay any more money for the game because they don't enjoy the fact that there's just these overpowered tanks? Armadillo, Panzer V4, all of those. It is just one of those things that you just kind of have to think about and talk about, and I guess that my opinion is, I think it's difficult. It is a difficult opinion to have, but I do think that this is a good change for the game itself and the gameplay within the game. But I do feel sorry for those of you who paid that £30 or £40 or whatever you paid for the Armadillo, because, yeah, it probably would be a little bit tedious as to you've paid your money for something that you thought it was, it's been changed. Yeah, I could see why you would get annoyed at that. Obviously, let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think that that's fair? Do you think it's okay? Let me know. Other than that, we'll move on with the rest of the video where we look at some of the extras that will be coming very, very soon. And there are certainly an interesting thing to come out. So, other topics. They are still investigating looks of tanks with colour filters. So I know I see this all of the time in the comment section down below, that the colours within the game are awful. Like, I'm not saying that the colours are myself, this is what other people are saying, and some of you, of course. I think that the colour filters myself, from what they were previously, have got worse on some of the maps. Do I think that they're absolutely outrageously horrible and that you can't possibly play the game without them? No. But do I think that they should be changed or altered a little bit? Yes. And hopefully they do that on the maps that are correct and need that. I think some of them are really glary. We've still got issues with Sand River. You know, that glare from the sun is still overwhelmingly awful, and when you implement more colour filters that affect that, yeah, it becomes a real problem. As far as extra stuff, Xbox Supertest will open recruiting today, so if you are interested in potentially getting involved with the Xbox Supertest, then try and sign up on the Wargaming website. Hopefully that will be live and you'll be able to actually recruited into the program. You basically get early access content, you have to sign non-disclosure agreements with the Wargaming themselves, which enables you to basically not talk about anything that gets implemented into the game until it's actually within or becomes public knowledge, if that makes sense. So it actually comes out, it's been posted by an official source on Wargaming, and it's supposed to be posted as an official source. That's kind of when you can talk about things properly as to the tanks and whatever you may test on the Supertest. So don't go thinking, oh, I can go into that and play the game and it will be all fun and games, but often, yeah, it's probably a little bit annoying that, yeah, you know what's coming, but you can't talk about them. The community Supertest is something I'm involved with, so I have a little bit of knowledge as to what's coming before, but then again, it struggles to make an impact, I think, as to what you feed back to Wargaming, because often they don't really give you enough time for them to be able to develop upon the suggestions that you may give back, and it just felt a little bit lackluster. I just didn't really understand why there was actually a point in the Supertest if they didn't really take that much notice from it. Otherwise, moving on with this video, I don't want to crap on their Supertest that much, but if you are interested, definitely sign up, because yes, they can make a positive change in some situations, but don't go thinking it's going to be all rainbows with the Supertest. But moving on, competitive type of event in random battles looking good, on track for November, limited to tier 10 heavy and US, or heavy US and Soviet tanks. You will only be able to play tier 10 heavies from the US and Soviet. Looks like it may be some sort of actual event where you essentially play like an old game, or an old operation from maybe World War II, where the Soviets, I don't know, maybe it's a specific kind of holiday event, I don't know. It could be interesting. It looks like it could be fun for those of you interested in playing the game, but I don't know how it will work, don't know quite what Wargaming are intending with that, but it's going to be interesting when it comes into the game itself. Moving on, Spectator HUD improvements investigations are still ongoing. So Wargaming have said that they will be renewing the World War II original HUD back into the game, but we haven't got any information regarding that. They updated last week saying that they haven't even given it to the team to be able to start developing the idea of the World War II HUD. So yeah, it doesn't look like we'll be getting it anytime soon. So yeah, don't go thinking that it will probably come before the end of the year, because I would say it's probably 3, 4, 5 months away from them actually doing anything, considering it's been, probably nearly a year since Update 6.0 originally came into the game. Now moving forward, contracts are coming back by the end of the year. Wargaming have made a stance on this. Now, if they don't actually complete them, then it means it will be over a year since they've introduced contracts into the game, so it's going to be a little bit tedious for those of you if they don't come back into the game once they've made this statement. Hopefully it will be. I know that they've been saying a long time that it will be coming back into the game, so it's always good. But essentially that is the mercenary contracts, by the way, for those of you not kind of following along. The contracts will be coming back, so that's always good. Community map test in custom games after last week's stream for Hellfire entire pass, so you will be able to play that still in the community map test. You've also got some feedback that was given back to Wargaming following that. You've also got the new set of maps being reworked and will be implemented into the game. So we have the specific maps being changed, and those are Tietval Ridge, Resigni, Erlenberg and Lakeville, and potentially secret 5th map was leaked with that information. So if you're interested in any of those maps, if you remember any of them, obviously leave your comments in the comment section down below. And if you know what the potential secret 5th map that was released, let me know in the comment section down below, because that will be very interesting. Obviously, we don't know 100% what that is, but it's going to be fun to interest. And seriously, I am enjoying World of Tanks at the moment and all of the new content that's been coming into the game. Wargaming have actually increased their kind of development cycle. I'd say that we get content quite regularly, and when you compare it to other games, yeah, it does actually be pretty decent, but I am saying that there are still a lot of problems with the game, and often they upgrade the maps and stuff like that, and it's becoming better with the map rotation, but there are still a few things that I would like to see. Some of the maps need some reworking in terms of the ones we currently have, let alone some of the new ones. Anyway, A-up inscriptions are now correctly visible, so that's of course Minto Vimto's A-up inscriptions. We've also got next up for tanks reforged, there are the German, medium, tank destroyers and premiums, so it's going to be the German lines. So you know we got the big tanks reforged where we looked at the Russians, basically, the British tanks and the American tanks. They all kind of got bundled into one, and there was like 80 tanks that got buffed all in one go. It looks like we may be getting the German medium tank destroyers and premiums all bunched into one and released at some point fairly soon. There's also the music that they used in the Monsters Awaken trailer, which is available on the Wargaming website, and you'll have to actually go to that. I'm not going to go to it right now because I don't know if it's copyright censored or whatever it is, but there will also be a poll soon on allowing the community a choice at a future tank skin. So they're basically going to give you a choice as to what skins that they've kind of developed, maybe initial concept ideas. Then they're going to roll it out to everyone and give you the choice as to which ones you'd want to see as part of it. So that's going to be interesting. Maybe it will be some sort of event in the future, maybe the next Christmas event or something. I don't know. It could potentially be maybe January. It's probably likely it will be some sort of free thing for Christmas, I would assume. I don't actually know for sure. Anyway, moving forward, Marks of Excellence data is currently being analysed and will take another 6 days to complete at least. So you know, those of you talking about Marks of Excellence becoming super hard, they're looking to actually change the Mark of Excellence so it becomes easier again, so that it does take into account the map you're playing. So yeah, I guess that's another kind of controversial or at least interesting topic that Wargaming are looking at. It seems that they are actually taking on board some of the key things that are wrong with the game. There's no real information regarding the the HUD improvements for, you know, communication with your team, the communications wheel. There's a lot of things that I would rather see back into the game. There's a lot of things missing with that wheel, and I definitely want to see that coming back into the game. There's also commander customization is scheduled to make a comeback early next year, so we won't be seeing that at least until January, February, March, somewhere in the first quarter I expect. So don't go thinking that's coming before Christmas. We've also got the NM116 to be put forward as a potential future World War II tank coming into the game. Don't know when that'll be, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see, as with most stuff that Wargaming produce. Then we have the Extra Life 24 5-hour even live stream charity event, begins at 8 o'clock CDT on the November the 6th, which I would implore every single one of you to try and jump in. At least if you've got any little bit of spare money you can donate for the good charity, then I really would, if you can, basically. It's a great event, definitely one that will be very good for the community and for the charity itself, and of course if you can give money money to a charity. If you have that ability, then it's always nice to do, and hopefully it can help someone out. Obviously, if you don't have that, maybe just tune into the charity, give it a little support with your viewership, because that will always help. And yeah, hopefully that they can have a massive great job with that. I don't know if I will be partaking in it. I will kind of have to talk to some of the Wargaming staff and stuff like that, but maybe potentially I will be involved in the stream. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Let me know in the comment section down below if you are going to visit that and you're going to have a look at the 25-hour live stream charity event. And yeah, hopefully that will be interesting for you. Other than that, I hope you did have a good rest of your week. I really did hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to check out any other content, if you want to look at the recent premium tanks that come with the season pass, then you can do. My review of all of them will be coming out periodically. I've obviously got yet to do the NM116, which will be coming fairly soon, maybe even potentially tomorrow. But as far as the Object 732 or 752 and some of the other tanks that are in the game right now, the Rover and the Creature, then you can have a look at those, see what you think of the tank and potentially purchase them or get the season pass to be able to get them. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend as of the recording of this video. Other than that, hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.